Hello, everyone. I'm definitely going to need energy whilst I go through this seminar because it is quite long. Um, oh. All right, so I'm going to start by explaining who I am. I think that's really, really important for you guys to understand in order for this seminar to make some sense. Um,
Holy Spider-Man. Now keep off.
so my name is Vishnu Asari. You can just keep the whole page, it's okay. And I'm a qualified teacher. I hold a master's degree in English education. I run an organization called Rap Therapy, which I'm not going to tell you about right now, but it is a part of my story, which makes a lot of sense. And I just recently published a book called A Black Man Stuck in a White Education System. Um, I'm going to share again my story. I don't have, obviously, hours and hours, so I can only share a small segment of my story with you. Okay, so this seminar, feel free to just throw the whole thing down. This seminar is going to be a mixture of me telling you my story, like I said, and you guys completing some tasks as well. And I'd like to just start off with a little kind of quote from Gladstone Billings, who argues that historically, storytelling has been a kind of medicine to heal the wounds of pain caused by racial oppression. Although, like I said, I can't tell you my full story, this is going to be very therapeutic for me. Writing the book, A Black Man Stuck in a White Education System, was extremely therapeutic for me, based on the things that I had gone through as a teacher, and I'm still an acting teacher. Yeah, feel free to just throw it all out. Yeah. So I completed my undergraduate degree in journalism, news media, and creative writing. I did it at Roehampton University, and in all honesty, I hated it. I thought it was quite long-winded. I thought I didn't really see the point in it. I was kind of only going to university based on the fact that I wanted to make my mum proud. Now, in saying that, the reason why I picked this course was because I was good at English. I never really attended all of my English classes, but when I was in class, I was good at it. So I thought, let me go to university and complete a degree. After university, my mum advised me to become a teacher. However, I was very skeptical. I wasn't interested in becoming a teacher. Partly because of my own experience as a student in school. I think my own experience, there was a lot of racial prejudice, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. But I'd also replied to my mum, I don't like children, which is extremely ironic because now 99.9% of the people that I work with are children. I did loads of jobs, but ultimately decided to become a teacher assistant. I enjoyed helping children, and then I became a cover teacher. And what I discovered as a cover teacher is I was going into classes, and usually cover teachers, how they work is you go into class, you've got the work there, you sit down, you give it the sheets out to the kids, and the kids kind of just crack on with the work. For me, I felt like that was an injustice to the kids. So I'd actually try to teach them. And there would be teachers that would pop into the classroom trying to figure out how comes these kids are so engaged for a cover teacher's lesson. So then I decided, all right, great. I enjoy being around children more than I enjoy being around adults. So let me work with children. And it was during this time, I'm going to walk through this stuff because it was during this time that I decided that I would start a company called Rap Therapy. And again, I'm going to give you this story in a while as well. And then I decided to do a PGCE in, no, you're okay. Yeah, a PGCE in English education. Now, the interview process was extremely interesting, shall we say. If you just click all the way down. I was invited to do a few interviews, but I was invited to a university called UCL, the Institute of Education, which was an extremely somewhat prestigious university for education. And initially, when being invited for the interview, I was so unsure if I'd turn up. The people, I'll tell you why in a second, actually. So, firstly, I got a 2-2 at my university degree. And obviously, the university degree system, you got 2-2, you got 2-1, and then you got first. they wanted you to have a first to go to UCL. And I had a 2-2. So I was thinking, what is the point in going to the interview? And I don't know, for all of the people that are black in this room, when they ask you about your ethnicity on the form, sometimes we're very skeptical to click Black British or Black African or Black Caribbean. The reason is, we believe at times that is a tick box exercise. They must interview a certain amount of people in order for them to say that they've kept the process fair. So I felt that because I clicked Black British, that they were only inviting me for an interview because I'm a Black British male. Anyway, long story short, someone convinced me to go to the interview. I went to the interview. And when I went to the interview, I went there very underdressed, not ready for the interview. Didn't prepare anything, actually, in all honesty. I sat there was a nice, short Irish lady that came up to me, said, it's time for your interview. Sat down with her. I looked at her, she looked at me, she was kind of looking at me like, why are you wearing that? And I was looking at her like, why are you wearing that? And we ultimately got to talking, and she said to me, that I was open with her. I said to her, look, you guys have invited me for an interview. I've got a 2-2 at uni. This is a prestigious school. Why do you want me? And she said to me, she doesn't care about if I got a 2-2, if I got a third, if I got a 2-1 or first. What she cared about was my experience. In the UCAS application that we have to send off, I spoke about all of my experience. I spoke about my company, I spoke about teaching assistant work, I spoke about cover work, and that's what she was interested in. That was kind of the first kind of turning point in my mindset in terms of everyone's not evil. Everyone's not out there to get. And then I walked out the building. And when I walked out the building, as soon as I walked out the building, in fact, I got an email saying, we would like you to attend UCL. So I ended up going to UCL and completing my PhD. And there's that beautiful black man there, standing there, moving his gown on. Yeah, brilliant. I want you to, don't look yet. I want you to discuss with the people around you, really quickly, if you can identify what RAP actually stands for. Some of you might know it, some of you might not know it. See if you can figure out what RAP stands for. The music, RAP, what does it stand for? Discuss. No. All right, let's see. So, does anyone know what RAP stands for? Rhythm and poetry. Very close. It stands for rhythm and poetry. Okay, quick discussion. There's 3 questions here. And with those around you, I want you to think about this, and I want you to discuss this with the people around you. I'm going to just pick random people. I like a hands-down approach. So I'm going to pick different people that feed back to me after you've discussed. When you think about rap music, what initially comes to your mind? Number 2, what stereotypes are connected with rap? And number 3, where do these stereotypes stem from? Where do they come from? Discuss. This table. I think this table is going to be an energy table. Nice table.
Position in the West. But again, I want to just say kind of pretty level. Within my poem, as well as indigenous African, Indian, Asian, as a form of Right. So, like a base,
Yeah. 15 seconds left. Let's discuss. Thank you. Right. So, I am going to go to. For the first question, I said I'm going to take a hands-down approach. I am going to go to, so when you think about rap music, what initially comes to mind? What's your name, sorry?
Yeah, Kenzie.
Kenzie.
My group was, some of us are from the United States, so we were talking about our experience with rap music and how it usually makes us think of young men and storytelling of like street culture, and sometimes that's degrading to women. And it also, like, to me, it connected with like its African roots of storytelling.
Lovely. Thank you. Number two, what stereotypes are connected with rap? My friend, what's your name, sorry? What's your name? Palito George Casimo. Sorry. Okay, go ahead. What do you think about
stereotypes connected to that? Well, it's a kind of a paradox, I think, because the stereotype that comes to people's mind when they think about rap is uneducated. But for some reason, in most contexts, they are the most educated people. That's why there's poetry there. That's why there's literacy there. That's what, coming to think about it, one of the dissertations on my school that was a dissertation completely about a lyric of a rap song. Completely. Okay. 20,000 words. Just a lyric from a rap music.
What was the song?
It's a Mozambican rap, a revolutionary rap called Asagaya. Asagaya means like
bow and arrow?
Bow and arrow.
Yeah.
So he's ready. Yeah. But it was against the government, against oppression, against misogyny, against everything that's bad for society. So when this is the first thing that comes to my mind, uneducated. For some reason, and it's, as I said, kind of a paradox, because if I think about a rapper, I think of literacy, I think of well-written poems.
Interesting. Lovely. Thank you. Number three, where do these stereotypes, so let's talk about the generic stereotypes. So stereotypes like the misogyny, for example, the guns, the violence, all of this stuff. Where does that actually stem from? I'd like to go to the young lady with the glasses on. What is your name? Oh, there's two.
I think you're looking at me.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm Fez. I think those stereotypes come from, I think media perpetuates these stereotypes, but the stereotypes come from white supremacy, patriarchy, racism, systems of racism, colonialism, enslavement. Those are different sort of systems of oppression that we're exposed to.
Lovely. Well done. Thank you. Even when we think about mainstream music, a lot of the time that the artists are actually putting out music, they're not the people that are controlling that music that is actually going out. So that's something to always bear in mind. Oh, hey, there's me. So when I was in school, feel free to just throw them all out. Rap was banned. Like, you weren't allowed to rap in the playground, you weren't allowed to rap in the corridor. Definitely was not allowed to rap in the classroom. As a student, this for me was something that I just felt like, this sucks. because this is one thing that I'm actually good at. Culturally, rap is something that many young black boys and girls listen to and create. Now, it is open to everyone, but if we think about that small niche, it is many young black boys and black girls that listen to it. In a predominantly black school, this genre of music was banned. I spent a lot of time in detention rapping in the playground, rapping in the class. Now, the problem with this is, even though I spent time in detention for rapping in the playground, in the class, and in the classroom, when I was in detention, I'd be writing rap lyrics. So when the teacher sees it, I get put in another detention. And I can't tell you the amount of Saturday detentions that I actually sat for literally writing raps. Now, this is something to bear in mind for when this story is kind of coming to, I think we call it fruition. Is that a word? Yeah. It is a word. So I want you to just think about this. The content of my music, this is the thing that kind of separated me. It was always very conscious. So it wasn't talking about all of the guns, the violence, the drugs, which I could have easily spoken about because I was easily surrounded by that. But it talked about all of the things that we should do as a society, the change that we should make, the things that's happening in the world, the things that ultimately are affecting society.
Can I ask you something quick?
Yeah.
There's something missing there. I just wanted to, your position, like you mentioned racism and what you've been going through. I'm just thinking me as a teacher in class, and you're not listening, and I'm trying to teach you, and then again you're writing something, you're doing all this kind of stuff, then I have to put you aside.
Yeah.
So actually there's some issue at home around you that you're trying to process.
So do you want to answer that?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. So I just wanted to ask, what is taking you away from being in class by escaping to rap?
I think it's that, number one, I knew I was good at it. Number two is that. Yeah. No, that's fine. And number two, it's that, and we'll talk about this as well, what you've just asked me in a second. Some of the things that was happening in the world at the time, for me, was worrying as a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, 12-year-old. And we'll talk about that. Jumping ahead of the gun.
I don't want to get you.
Right. What do you think the main reasons were that rap as a genre was banned in my school? Discuss it with the people around you. Go. Great question. That was a great question. Yeah, that was a great question.
This is more easy. Yeah. And then
Okay, let's see. So, I'm going to pick on someone from this name. Buddy, what's your name? Green. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Transform the systems, social systems, social structure. I think there are.
Okay, so you feel like it might be threatening against the school and its actual systems that are put in place for the school to function on a day-to-day basis.
They unite with the ground.
Yeah, okay, lovely. I'm going to go to one more person. I saw you going at it. What's your name? Sorry?
Kieran.
Kieran, go ahead.
So I was saying that you said you were going to be in black school. What were your teachers like? Were they mainly black? Were they white teachers?
Mainly white.
So I feel like a lot of these white people, because same Western, they probably saw these students like be creative in a way that they didn't understand. And to them, that creativity, the proportion of rap, will see it as like gang mentality. Like all these students are doing something we don't understand. That means they're anti-establishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a brilliant answer. And when you see a bunch of black boys in the playgrounds, automatically you think there's a fight. There's no fight. We're literally rapping someone beatboxing. So, back to my good friend Lansing Billings. Feel free to just throw it out. Yeah. Dialogue of people of colour has been silenced. I believe that this is very true. For us as students, rap was a means to express ourselves in the playgrounds, and it was banned. But like I said, the one thing that I felt that I was good at, they took that away from me. They snatched it away from me. Rap, overall, is a racialized genre of music. It is something that people generally stick to black people. They say, this is your music. And one which many associate with violence, killings, and misogyny. Already established that. Although mainstream rap has built up this name, and again, like we said already, a lot of the time when it comes to mainstream rap, they're not the people that decide what actually goes out. It's the label that says, this is going to sell. We want you to put this out. And these rappers, there are rappers out there that rap about social issues, change, storytelling. There's a famous rapper in New York called Papoose. Does anyone know Papoose? Yeah, Papoose. Yeah, and he wrote something called the Law Libraries. And the Law Libraries is, there's 8 tracks, and in all 8 tracks, he will tell people the systems and how to fight against the law. Now, every single one of these things that he was saying in each of these tracks, he's giving people information. He's telling them exactly what they need to do in certain situations. I want to show you, and the funny thing is, if I was to ask you, let's just have a quick show of hands. Who's heard of Papoose's Law Libraries? One person. Okay. If I was to ask you, who's heard of 50 Cent's Candy Shop? Okay, really interesting, right? It's really interesting how you've heard of Candy Shop, but you haven't heard of Law Libraries. I want to show you a music video. This music video, what I did here is I took different people from different postcodes, and I'll explain why I did this in a second, and put them together on a song. Whilst you watch it, I just want you to think carefully about the lyrics and stuff. Is there a way for me to turn these lights so they hear it? So it'll be on the next page. It's called Where You From. It'll be on the next one. Right. So, yeah. Start pieces of the production. Try everybody get turned up to the track. Not there. Nate, to your grits, Balcona, the family, boys. Let's get the video. If not, can we get YouTube on that?
Yeah.
Well, it's what called Law Library is Right.
Yeah, they both
Yeah,
have
right.
it. I kept going down and trying to get to the big like. Like, but I didn't want to like use very special days. They were like, who didn't want to get out.
So they shoot the video and write it.
Well, they were sure great.
Yeah. Yeah, shot, he's gonna try and put that set up in the trap. They, your grits, Falcona, Spanish, boys, yeah, let's get it. Okay, you got like, this she said, oh, right. It's not in your concerns. So, it's still the pretty much I got some action. I'm just right? So when they need to take the fight, when they need to touch a slack by getting slack, you might be excited about fighting on the night thing. I see it back. Back. See what it is. See what it back into the back. It's awesome. What I see is over G's. Hold your peace, step the peace, what we live in inside, peace, hold your faith in a peace, on the way, bringing that peace, but no keep, we can have a good peace, hold your people, speak when you can speak. What I will sit when you fall, things go, let's get out, things long, when you fall, let's get out, let's go there and get to something, don't believe the rest of us, we want to Robert make bars, don't get the energy that it's so risky. This space might have another benefit about our really quick much being all this first event, everyone's at the gang game, it's all this evening, by the way, answer that the check, really wrong good things from those ground update. Okay, I'm put a page was made and the game's top. The race, you're saying happens in the dark, so you take one card, actually get yo. Sadly, like I shoot like a call out in the fridges, even though we're up and in the past, and the books say they say two less crowd, it brings so good. The Greeks and trees, everything for the two. You say, some man have been man in that house, you know, man in that house to be a man, they just finding it out. A man got that by the man, that's the thing, we're finding a house, you never been here. It's like everything here, scribbling, anything like that. Some streets, some cars, this how it goes. That's how life in the south side goes. Ain't mountain if you don't know. You've been in a seven many seats on with an $8 work. Kids, buy the ball. Well, let's be out. It's long. Well, gets me out, strips you out. Let me hit them with the ring bars. It's a cool life, and I'm from the bars. I'm cool in the image, we see my dogs. I'm saying from my car, I'm from a different part. I'm from the top of the bridge, where it's really dark. When you hold it, you got to hold better. When I let you enough, you to the class. Last class, then the bar, get ready for the great. Couple brothers in the great, some are in the page. Some are off on the page, too pretty late. Little bait, little Jake, never come to stay. They were living in the same way, man. I put two to your face for a way of pay. And it seemed that this again, anyway, I can say that I really did it again. Guidelines, we can't see, come around, but they got bullets, and we speak, and we speak to the beach, and the truck side into the street. London really low, if got city car, I'm under broke 19, give you better off. So that might be safe to the city yard, we can't see that 110 yard, that's 110 yard, we can't see. It's all over the streets from the south to the east, and I speak, 1, 3, 4, down here, no joke, down here, with a poke. And go to the okay, looking at that road.
All right. And how we know? All right. This is what I need to discuss with those around you. What was the song about? What do you think? I know it's crazy.
That's what I approached it. They were saying, they even said, like, where are you from? But they were saying something. I didn't quite catch it, but they were saying something along the lines of, like, let's have a lot of
Oh, I am going to go to someone from this table because I'm from this table. Just a little bit. What is your name? Becky. Okay, right. Becky, talk to us. What do you think the song was about?
On the table, we say most of us could only hear where you're from and where I'm from.
Yeah.
And we're thinking that song is talking about the setting, the location, and how it affects the way of life of the people around it.
Yeah.
Like maybe the sunsets and stuff like that.
Brilliant. That's the only part of the song that I was really happy that you put. The song is about where we're from. I literally got a bunch of different people from different areas to jump on a song without swearing and talk about their area. The point of this was to try and show the younger generation that actually it doesn't matter where you're from, every deprived area is very similar. This was released in 2018. There were postcode wars going on a lot of the time. There was a lot of knife crime, and there was a lot of violence that was going on. Again, I brought loads of people together to talk about how they saw their area in their perspective, from their eyes. The funny thing is, what's actually really funny about this song is the amount of people that was on the song, which was arguably a lot of people for one song. Yeah, see, there's a long song. The interesting thing is no one wrote their lyrics together. So we're all in different places writing these lyrics, and we're all coming up with similar stuff. Talking about chicken shops, talking about guns, talking about violence. It's really interesting that I said to them, hey, can you jump on this song? Can you write some lyrics about your area? And that's all they were given. And they all came up with very similar things. Yeah. Okay, back in school. So I'm not in this picture, but I'm very close to the picture. Feel free to click all the way through. When I was 14 years old, I was given a homework task by my older white male English teacher, who you can see there in the middle. I'm going to set you the same homework task in a second. I want you to do here. You can do this as a group. You don't need to do it as an individual. I was given a task to write a piece of poetry about the things that was happening around the world. Just a piece of poetry. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to write a poem about the things that that's going on around the world. And I'm going to ask a few people to perform their poem. So you can write it together as a group, but I'm going to ask different people to stand up and actually perform their poems. Right, we've got an expert at the corner there, so hey, I'm giving you only 5 minutes to do it.
Yeah, please,
That's today. So,
Just say, I expect big things. Just say,
I think we will get to everything what is going on. So let's put some of this out. Right. Right. So you need Oh, no, there's something there. That's good. Okay. Being anxious. Oh, I'm talking about. Oh, yes, yeah, like meeting. Yeah, we're running the question. You guys come in
You have 1 minute left to finish your amazing poem. 1 minute left.
Oh yeah. I just speak.
You guys come in
Me like okay. Oh, no, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you should be finished your 16-line poem. I'm joking. But I would like to hear. I would like to hear some of the group's poems. So I'm only going to pick on 2 groups. Time is over. I'm going to pick on the new school over here, who are writing on their phone. When you're ready, I'm going to pick one person. Time of your name. Angie, go ahead. Angie, you can't tell a poem sitting down. You have to stand up.
Cyclones of cycles that rip through our world, winds that bring destruction, hurricanes and heavy rain, Helene and Milton come from climate change. Destruction, corruption, but winds are also bringing change. Communities coming together, collecting the rubble, creating hope out of struggle.
Wow. Right. I need to hear Mr. Poet at the back. I need to hear you.
So we're gonna start. So we're gonna have not just me. It's kind of
Okay.
Group like what you did there. So I will start today. I do today from here. Okay. Today.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh. From uni to town, we march. Frida.
Breathe, like, be a storm in America became hurricane.
And the ones to blame, they hide.
Yeah, you do it.
Too much focus on the old. We need attention to the young.
Well done. Okay. If we that's approved, but there's a oh, sorry, we got one more group that wants to say this. Amazing. All right.
Yes. So we talked about the good, the bad, and the good. So when we're in a world where there's war, inequality, national, that protest, unemployment, hunger, but we've got new technologies, connection, more women's voices. We are speaking out from the silence.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, this is how the lesson went. So, after the homework task, this is what happened in the lesson. So, I walked into the classroom, and the teacher said that we're going to be performing our poems, similar to how I made you guys stand up. He said when we perform, we have to stand up in class. Now, that's quite daunting for a young person to do. He picked me to perform my poem, and I handed him a CD. He looked at me really weird, and I looked at him really weird, and I just said, "Sir, just pop it in." And he put the CD into the CD player, and then he played the following instrumental. And this is exactly how it went. So, I've written my homework in this book, by the way. These are the lyrics. Look, our mission today is to pray. Why? Because we're in evil days. There's even been tsunami waves, even hurricanes, wars, and earthquakes and politics. Ticks having massive debates. What ball game are you playing? Not the same as me. People on the streets fighting and having envy. Listen up, it's not the way to be. Listen to this rap and listen up carefully. Suicide bombers bomb the trains and the bus. Politics and they always have a fuss. The young man's walking by who always has a cut. This doesn't apply to one, it applies to all of us. There will be a day when we all live in harmony. There will be a day when we all speak calmly. There will be a day when we all live in peace. There will be a day when all the violence will cease. So, I was going to make you do another task, but I'm not going to make it do. And if we can fly through this, he was going to turn these poems into raps, but you're not doing that yet. You might do it. All right. With this homework allowed me to break the stereotype of rap at my school at the time. And the teacher asked me to perform at an assembly, which I agreed to. As critical thinkers, I want you to discuss the following question. What is wrong with this picture that I've just painted? So, where I've done my homework and he's asked me to perform on stage in my school. What's wrong with this picture? Discuss it with people around.
It's okay.
Yeah, if it's like if you came in a breath about
And like this is valuable for like other the school and like encouraging and stuff.
Okay, I am going to go to someone that I haven't picked on yet. Is going to be the person who's trying to not look at me. What's your name? What's your name? Mamadou. Right, go ahead. Talk to me. What's wrong with the picture above?
Well, I heard my father that the teacher wanted to use him right in front of people and showing them how successful things manage to get this into this thing.
Okay, that is definitely one angle to look at it from. Here's what I put. This is what and again, you're not wrong. I agree with it. But this is what I put. The problem. The sad part about this was the school found validation in rap for a white male English teacher. Although there was a positive that came out from this homework class, the lyrics which I rapped was constantly the same lyrics which I sat in detention. So every single time I'm sitting in detention, the lyrics were just like that. And I'm sitting in detention constantly, and this guy's saying to me, hey, and he's a great teacher, by the way, but he's saying to me, hey, how about you perform? It'll be okay if I say you can. There was validation in him saying that's okay. When I'm arguing with the teacher saying, hey, actually read my lyrics, they didn't want to read it. Really interesting. Now, empowering voices. Here's a nice little quote. The contradicting nature of education, wherein schools most often oppress and marginalize, whilst they maintain the potential to emancipate and empower. The school was the one that oppressed student voices usually. They didn't allow children to speak freely and express their views. The teacher was able to empower the voice through the homework class. He didn't oppress me when I gave him the CD. He gave me a funny look, but he didn't say, you can't use the CD, which was really, really good for me, which was really nice. There's so many opportunities for teachers and people that work with young people to empower them, but they unfortunately neglect these opportunities. Why is it neglected? Here's why I think it's neglected. I think that there's a fear of culture. I think that there's a lack of knowledge. And I think that there's a fear of trying new things. We're going to talk about that in a second. So here's the lyrics. Back to your question that you asked me. You kind of answered it. So we're going to just go through it really quickly. The lyrics on the board. And if you click again for me, please, twice. These are the things, as a 14-year-old boy, that I would always hear on the news of the things that were happening. Tsunami waves. Now, I didn't do geography in school. I didn't know a tsunami wave can't hit London. But it was something that worried me. Hurricanes, wars, earthquakes. This stuff was happening. People in the streets. This is something I would see every day. Going home on the bus, I'd see this constantly. Suicide bombings. This was something that happened. There was suicide bombing. On the trains and the bus, I think it was. And it's crazy because all of this stuff, for me, was a means to express how I felt. So that comes back to your question, what was taking me away in class? Maybe it was my feelings. Maybe it was the things that I should have been expressing because it's the only way I knew how to express it. And if I wasn't expressing it that way, the expression could have been a very different way, maybe a very violent way. Yeah?
Or to join them, or to be kind of
100%.
Of us.
Yeah, 100%.
Any of that.
I mean, maybe not join these people, but definitely be a part of something I shouldn't be a part of.
That's what I'm looking there is like you're anxious, it's anxiety, to belong, and then you're sensitive. And then so someone that is frightened becomes member of a gang to protect himself within life crime or all this kind of stuff. So if you pay attention to this silent, I'm really glad that you pointed this silent out because it's about listening, to see, to be able to have that contact with that person. and share that you care. So that is one shown that. So but you fought through. Thank you.
It's all right. Thank you. Yeah. So, Kenny argues in the English Journal, volume 102, number 5, hip hop literature, the politics, poetics. Why are these titles so long? The politics, poetics, and power of hip hop in English classroom. He argues that children are marginally involved in their own education because they do not see themselves in classroom texts. I agree, but I also argue that children do not see their own culture within the classroom. The fear that some teachers may have, and this part is super important here, the fear that some teachers may have learning something new, so for example, having a rap-based lesson and jumping out of their comfort zone, this is the same fear that children feel on a day-to-day basis when a teacher might say to you, hey, we're going to be studying an inspector calls. I don't know what an inspector calls is, that's scary. You're going to study Lord of the Flies. I don't know what that is, that's scary. So how come we put children in these positions to actually have to face their fears, but teachers are not in those positions where they have to face their fears and do things and bring and embed culture within their own teaching? So I argue here, if a teacher does not have the experience in rap, that they should find the time to learn aspects, because this could be helpful to the classroom and the student. Now, again, Kenny argues, for students to truly engage in their learning, they need to see their own culture. They need to see the things that they like within that classroom world as they see a space for themselves within it. So they need to see themselves in the classroom. It's so important. Now, every school that I've worked in, all of the teachers say, oh, you've got such a great relationship with kids. Yeah, because I listen to what the kids like and I try to embed it in the class. I do a task in school, and that task is where I might have taught a particular text. I do a task where I get them to create a TikTok video. Now, I don't know much about TikTok. I know that like you film yourself and dance and stuff, but the TikTok videos are really helpful for them because they can then explain for a TikTok video what they have learned. So their culture is really important within my classroom. I'm going to speed through this because I'm conscious that time is of the essence. So if we throw all of these out. I started making music at 10 or 11 years old. Initially, I started at church and I had a little rap group called the Living Eagles. And we used to do performances in churches, go to other churches and perform. We won competitions, we did radio. Now, I think about 11, 12 years old, that's a bit crazy. We went to Notting Hill Carnival to perform, and we had a first album. Now, it's not much of an album, but for us to create an album like this album came a bit later, but for this album to be created by 3 people who have effectively just taken something off clip art and then printed on a piece of paper, copied a CD, and then put it in a piece of paper and then sold it out to people. That's quite amazing. But the crazy thing is, we were told that we weren't allowed to rap in church anymore. The reason is there was a DVD that came out. For those of you who know what a DVD is, a DVD came out. It was called The Ex-Ministry, The Truth Behind Hip Hop. And they were arguing that actually hip hop comes from an evil place. But it's crazy because we were all rapping positive stuff. And we weren't allowed to rap anymore. So that was the demise, that was the end of our rap group. After the breakup of the group, I branched off and made music with my older brother. We continued to do performances and shows. We created another album called Straight to the Point Now. This album was extremely important at the time of my life. The reason it was important, my dad always used to say to me, a man without a vision ends up dead or in jail. And it was around this time that I started realizing everyone around me was going to jail or they were dying. And it's crazy because I never lived that life, but I was around that life. I knew people that was in that life. So this was something that really helped us. We would sell this to shops and we'd say to them, hey, can we sell it to you? And if you sell it, you give us our money. So we would go out to the shops, get them to have it in their shops, get them to sell it. We would go out to the street, have a few of us selling it in the street. Now, I think it's better to sell a CD, in my opinion, than sell cocaine. And I think I'm writing another book for teenagers. And in the beginning, it says it went so right when it could have gone left. And what I mean by that is it really could have went left. And this CD was very, very important. Let's just say that. I'd skip class. I'd go to college and just skip the class and go to the music studio. I loved everything about music because I was good at it. This was effectively my cultural capital, which we'll talk about. I was assigned a task at college, and the task was to shoot a music video. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting. The music video that I shot was for one of my songs. So I skipped college, I went to the studio, I recorded the song, I got someone else on the song, I got him to skip school as well. So we went to do the song, and then we started shooting the music video. I'm going to show you the music video because I think it is important for the story. It's not as long as the other one, don't worry, but it's not as good quality. It will start. This part just stays on for long. So, you got out. You got so down. Let's go. We're gonna back from people. Don't spot. That's how we're gonna cut the top for. All right, I'll keep that. Stereotype. Go shine out. I'm gonna get that. They say, fuck you, even that. In a race, if I love that, they put up all these things. We're on the day. But 2 years get gone down, 2 years get gone down, sunshine even when the sun's down. In the lab of bar, we're at the very chopper, but we must bury each other, respect and get more each other. SE20 surface, I'm from them lower slums, holding more than bombs of stupid punks that think they're better than moving plans. You say you're riding, but only think you're riding on as a touring, until moving trust. I read the stereotype from Jones and Dr. I'm different, cool for you too, because I always get away stereotypes. So I stand up and say, I'm a deep in their pages, I'm not ignorant. I don't talk posh and eat, but I'm not an idiot, I'm not an idiot. That's it, and then get fancy, the articulate show. I'm from South London. But 2 years get gone down, 2 years get gone down, sunshine when the sun's down. In the lab of bar, we're at the very chopper, but we must bear each other, respect and get more each other. Check my dish, it's for this men's culture. Got more content, no tips. The one who said, you know this, the last week's call, that's all this. Kids, the guys come and put their film, this is hard. When you're video playlist, so abilities, and I'm going to abilities, it's must be learning like elementaries that we get if one of us is so this video, if you take it one more time, this is the last piece of pop music that I made for a very, very, very long time. The reason was, during the music video, that the teachers never ever found out about, there was a stabbing on set. So we were shooting in a location, and in that location that we were shooting in, I failed to check the area. So I felt responsible for someone getting stabbed. Now the problem with that is, number one, that was my means to expression. But the song, if you listen to the lyrics, is so positive. So how can we talk about something so positive and something like this happened? Now, by the way, Daddy died. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was stabbed. And that's crazy to me. So I took a really long break from music. That's being careful. So I continued through life. I wrote some lyrics, but nothing big. Feel free to get all through. Or not all the way through, maybe like up to there. Yeah. And I didn't release any music. I barely released music, to be fair. And I finished university. And one of the jobs that I had before becoming a teaching assistant and another teacher was I was a bus driver. Great job. Whilst I was a bus driver, I bumped into different people that I know. And all of these different people would say the same thing. They'd ask me, when are you going to write music again? So I'm literally picking people up and they're having conversations in class with me. They're saying, hey, we like music, when are you going to make music? And I think it was in the space of a month, I had about 4 people that actually asked me the same question. So I took that as a sign because I was thinking, should I start doing music again? So I took it as a sign and I said yes. And what I did is, as a bus driver, I decided to always wear this hat, number one. The reason why I always wore this hat was because I always wore a right headphone. And I always pulled it down to the side so no one could see it. And I played an instrumental that would play constantly for a whole hour's journey. I drove the 64 bus. And that's a really long route. So an hour I'm listening to the same instrumental. And I'd jump on the bus with a lyric pad and a pen. And I'd be writing these lyrics. I'm stopping at bus stops, writing lyrics. And then, feel free to click all the way through. And then the sound is the sound that everyone hates to hear, but I used to always play it on my bus. So, now, I was never, ever, ever even in out of service. Was always writing lyrics. So I'd stop at the bus stop, hit that button, and continue to write the lyrics. I got people to where they wanted to get to on time, but it's just, I needed to get those lyrics out. And then eventually I created an EP. So an EP is like a mini album. It was called Invisible Guidelines. And it got a lot of media attention. So it's a 6-track EP and it talks about my area. It speaks about, from the first song all the way through to the end, it tells a whole story. Because storytelling is very therapeutic, like I've already told you. This EP got a lot of media attention. So the Metro, the Guardian, the Advertiser, East London Lines, they all wrote newspaper stories on the music, which was really, really interesting, but really, really overwhelming at the same time. Feel free to flip to the next slide. And what was really interesting was there was the birth of rap therapy. I'm going to talk about that really, really quickly because I know time is of the essence. But I sat in a coffee shop with my older brother after the EP came out, and after all these newspaper articles came out, sitting in Costa Coffee. And he said to me, this music stuff is really good. And I said to him, yes, great, but I like to go to Primark and buy some boxes without kids stopping me and taking pictures. And again, the fame was nice because you got little kids that are looking up to me. Little kids that want to take pictures with me. And I said to him, I want to start a business. And he said to me, great. And I said to him, well, help me. And he said to me, well, what have you just been in the newspaper for? And I said to him, music. And he said, well, the business has to be music related then, right? So I said, okay, cool. Easy, so help me. And he said, all right, I'm going to help you. I would like you to write down 5 ideas before I finish my sandwich. So he gives me a paper and a pen. And you know Costa Coffee, has anyone been Costa Coffee? Sandwich is like that big, yeah? And he's a really quick eater, so he's filling this sandwich, and I'm really writing these lyrics down. I'm writing these ideas down. And some of the ideas were generic. It was like build a studio, which we now have. It was manage artists. It was all of these different things that were general music jobs, shall I say. But the one that stood out to me was help young people learn to express themselves positively through rap. And these are the first 5 that I ever worked with. And these 5 were all on the verge of getting kicked out of school permanently. And I worked with them for 4 hours, 1 hour a week. And the school turned around and said to me, what on earth have you done with these kids? They're all back on track in school. And I realized all I was doing was giving them that tool to express themselves, giving them that tool to kind of talk about their actual internal feelings. And some of the stuff that came out was some of the stuff that they were worried about, that I was worried about as well as a young kid. Feel free to think all the way through this one. Again, getting into rap therapy into schools was extremely difficult. Again, music is rap music is a racialized genre of music. So when you're dealing with especially white males in school who are SLT or who have some power in the school, it's very difficult to persuade them that actually rap doesn't fit into this negative stereotype. There are many times that people told me to change the name, and I told them to change the name of the school. But that didn't work. I just told them, no, we're not going to change the name. Cultural capital. I think this is really important. So cultural capital can be defined as a concept that describes the non-economic resources that people can use to navigate culture, achieve success, and gain social mobility. Music was my cultural capital. It had been since school. I didn't know that at school, but I did know it as I got older. A black lady who noticed how this cultural capital would benefit the children in her school, those 5 that I just spoke about, she gave rap therapy a chance. And the crazy thing about giving rap therapy a chance is we ended up going to multiple schools. So we've been to over 100 schools. And we've worked with over 10,000 young people in the space of since 2018, just to help them learn how to positively express themselves through rap. That is crazy to me. Something that I wasn't allowed to do at school is something I've now kind of made my career or my job, or something I've enabled young people to help learn that tool or that skill.
It's fine, we're about there.
We're about there?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we'll have to do a round 2 at some point. Sorry, guys, we've run out of time. But if you have any questions, feel free to discuss. And then,
yeah, let's do that. Thanks. Unusual because there's lots in here. It's not only a life story, there's loads in there. So let's do our Sussex buzz. You've got 3 minutes to buzz with people, sharpen your questions, and then Bismarck will answer them. Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of a long.
Let's be online. If you want to post a question, sorry, post a question and table the answer. Thanks very much. Okay, let's take a few questions now, comments or a question. Let's first question online.
I'm David. The New York Mapper due to the auto policy
PAP.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a question? Okay, Nancy.
More library.
Okay, questions around rap therapy and teachers. So we see the effect of these on students, learners, but we're thinking that don't you think teachers also need therapy because they also need to explain themselves also. They are kind of suppressed within the school system. Otherwise, if the system is a problem or the teacher will.
So yeah, I agree. I think that the school system is very, very, let's say, pressurizing. And that pressure comes from teachers and they bring that down to the kids. I do think that there's benefits in teachers doing rap therapy. But like I said in the beginning, and I kind of stand by it, I prefer to be around children and adults. However, there is value in teachers doing elements of rap therapy. So for example, one of the tasks that I was going to give you that I ran out of time to do was to convert a simple storybook into a rap. The purpose of this task would be to show you that if you can write a rap, you can teach rap. And it would be to show you that although rap is heavily associated with Black culture, it's not something that can be not used within other cultures, especially the classroom culture, to help children with their learning. So does that kind of answer your question? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is, this work that you're doing is something more non-profit, like they're not making money out of it. So I want to know, for we, because I run an NGO, so I want to know, we in the non-profit space that are interested in stuff like this, how do we get money to fund it? Because you can't do it, you probably need volunteers, you have to take transport there, maybe buy some things for the kids sometimes. So how do we get the funding?
So there's a couple of things. So the first thing is we're community interest companies. So our money goes into the community and back around to the community. Now for your company, I would suggest there's a company out there as well called Art International. And that company is helping people, especially charities, gain funding. But I think one thing that loads of charities miss a lot of the time is you need to provide proof and evidence as to how it works. Because if you can't provide proof and evidence as to how it works, who's going to give the money to keep running? That evidence is extremely important. So there's loads of ways. Governments have initiatives that they put money into. You've got the holiday and food programs that you can kind of use as well to help with children. Is yours children based?
Yes.
Yeah. So afterwards, I'm going to put all my kind of socials and stuff up there as well. So feel free to talk to me there. And I can actually directly send you a link. Yeah.
Thanks. Another question? OG?
Thank you so much. Just two things. First is you said you struggle. It's quite evident that you struggle in school to be accepted, rap music. Then again, in the church, we are pushed out again. I just wanted to know how you felt. So these institutions, the education institution and the church institution, and how that might have affected kind of your trajectory.
So I think throughout my life, throughout the story that you've heard, one thing that wasn't going to stop with me writing raps and doing intention. So when I'm in church and they're telling me you can't rap in church, and by no means am I saying that the church is a bad place. It's not a bad place. I'm not a Christian. But it's something that I think it's a lack of knowledge. If there's a lack of knowledge there, it's something that realistically you're going to make a judgment based on what someone else says. Now, for me, as that age, I felt like it really sucked because there was something that was keeping us on that path, and then it was taken away. And actually, what a lot of people don't know is when it was taken away, one of the people from the group actually went that way. And he ended up, like my dad said, dead or in prison, one of those places. And you decide which one it is. But effectively, I think that for my own mental state, because I kept writing, it was something that, regardless if they were going to try and stop me, I was still going to do it elsewhere.
So actually, it's not devil's music, it's God's music.
I don't believe that music is the devil's music. I believe that music comes from God. I think that everything comes from God, to be honest. And that's my own view on it. And we might have a different view on it.
Any more comments? Yeah. Should we take that one first and come back to you? Okay.
Okay, so Gunjan says, fascinating presentation focusing powerful adopted on that. That quote about educating tools and spaces that can oppress and marginalise volunteering to empower holds much relevance to so many of us. I would like to hear more about the gender dimensions of that and whose voices get heard and silenced through that.
So he wants to know about the gender kind of balance within rap. Okay. From what I gather, I think that is it. I think, again, like I said in the beginning, when we consider rap, we consider mainstream rap, the people that are releasing the music are not the people that are making decisions. I think that a lot of women in rap, they get taken advantage of. I think that some also don't value themselves. And why I say this is how they talk about themselves is how people perceive what rap to the woman should be. But then you've got people like Lauryn Hill, for example, who perceive themselves very different to how, let's say, Nicki Minaj perceives herself. Now, obviously, rap is something developing, it's always changing, and something that ultimately artists want to move with their time. If Lauryn Hill was still making music, I don't know if she still makes music, but if she was making music how she was back in the day, she wouldn't have as many fans today because that sound of music is not the same sound that people are wanting to listen to. I think if I'm trying to answer that question, I think that he's asking if women and men are equal in that. From what I'm gathering, I don't think they are equal in that. I think that sad. I think that in order for a female artist to blow up, she has to talk about certain things. Where the males would still blow up and talk about positive stuff. Perfect example of that would be someone like Nas, who I think had balance. Someone like J. Cole, who I think, even though they've got their songs that kind of go away from like the positive side of things, someone like J. Cole is amazing. Someone like Kendrick, their content is trying to give a message. The sexual, not like us.
I'll just add that because I looked at some of your clips that you sent me, and I was looking for exactly that, what Quincy was asking. The clips were showing young boys engaging in rap and actually eventually feeling very free and easy to do that. But I thought, girls. And then the girls came. I saw the girls in your thing. I was asking the same question, but yeah. Carlitos.
Thank you very much. I have a question. I always make these kind of broad questions and thoughtful questions because those are the things that come in my mind. A lot of things. So rap therapy. From your perspective, and mostly Black people's perspective, rap will not be seen, will always be seen only in the positive side, which is not the only side it has. Negative side. So there's good rap for good actions, and there's good rap for bad actions. So how do you manage this? How do you address the bad side of rap? Because you cannot make it utopian of children and only address the good side of rap. Oh, rap is empowering. Rap is that. And then they go outside and they will hear swearing words. They will hear patriarchal words or misogyny. And how then they come next day to your class and they, oh, rap, amazing. You see how liberating movies are. Rap, don't swear, don't do this. But you student will say, well, the rap song I heard yesterday was all about B words, N words, and so on. So how do you manage that?
So this is something that we mostly find with teenagers, actually. I think it's about balance and choice. We give them those set of rules, no swearing, no cussing, no degrading, any race, religion, or gender. And even though we give them those rules, they adhere to those rules when they're here with us. But ultimately, the choice is theirs. And what I mean by that is the choice when they leave that classroom to keep writing those raps, that choice to what they put in their content with their music is their choice.
we as an organization, I have to clarify this. We're not raising rappers. We are teaching young people how to express themselves. Yeah. And I think that the choice that you make is up to you. As long as we have taught you that this can be used to express yourself, where you take it from there, after we've helped you. And when I say after we've helped you, we have something in place now where actually young people are really interested in recording, but in order to record, they've got to go and sell some drugs to actually get into the studio. That's mad. So we said, right, let's set up a studio. So we've got a studio called the Container Studios. But we've also got other studios that we work with, and we send children there for free. We say, you don't need to sell nothing, you don't need to do this, go and make some music. And I think that them being in that right kind of company and also that guidance, even outside of the classroom, is really helpful. Because the engineers that work with them, they're going to be the people that pull them up and say, hey, why are you saying that in your lyrics? Let's talk about this. Yeah. So they talk about it, and it kind of breaks that notion there and then. And the timings that we have with those kind of recording sessions, it's an open slot. So there's time to talk about it. There's time to talk about things as well. I kind of answer your question?
Yeah. I think time is against us, but I just want to say one more thing, and that is I found out that Mishma drove the bus that I used to go to school on. I had before. So we're just going to, you can put up the last slide with your info. And
no, it's all the way at the end. There's so much that in it.
We'll do round 2 one.
We find that videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
If we look up Rap Therapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're going to get your stuff up. So while this is coming up, it's going to be your info.
I really had a lot to say.
Yeah,
if you want to post it.
Yeah, after too.
So okay, one more. So again, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Feel free to buy my book. I've got some on me if you want it. There's the website link there as well. Put me on Instagram is my personal one and my company one. If you have questions, do feel free to send me questions. I'll try not to take too long to respond to them. But feel free to send me questions and I'll happily answer them.
I think just for us to say thank you.